Welcome to the Cali Sober Mom Podcast. Monica and Britney are changing the conversation about motherhood, cannabis, and mental health, considering themselves unhinged Martha Stewart adjacent. Monica is a previous corporate America warrior turned mom and voice in the cannabis and consumer advocacy world. Britney is an artist, business owner, mother, and mental health advocate. Now, here are your hosts, the Cali Sober Moms.
Britney and I are here. We made it.
Barely, though. It was rough. It was a rough morning.
But we're back. We have some fun things to talk about. But I really want to share, Britney is getting ready to do something super, super cool that's starting. And I want to give her an opportunity to humbly brag on herself a little bit because she deserves it.
Monica, you were too sweet to me because I don't know about that. But I've been very lucky in my business world to have opportunities to learn more and do new things. And since starting my business about 3 years ago, have gone through way more changes than most small businesses do. It was quite the ride, but I was asked to apply for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program and got in, and that actually starts tomorrow for me, which is moderately horrifying. There's nothing quite like being told, all of the slight missteps you have taken in your business that maybe could have gone a different way. But I'm really excited. I'm very much a human that if I could not pay to be in school all the time, but learning new things, I totally would. And I'm stoked. Like, it's going to be a really hard but cool intensive. It's like an MBA in a semester. And I'm a little nervous, but I think it's going to go great. So that's where I'm at.
I can see why you'd be nervous you do have a lot on your plate. So I totally get that. But as someone, I did my MBA at night while working full time because I was bored. That is really what it was. I was bored and I love learning. So I spent the money to do that. But the knowledge you gain is great. And I didn't even have my own business to apply it to. I was applying it to my professional world, which sure, that was great. But I think it's so cool that you're going to get to take it to build something further than you've already built. And if anyone here is thinking about starting a business, you're going to make mistakes along the way. We are all going to make mistakes. But if you wait until you know everything, you will never start. So kudos to you for wanting to improve. And I'm excited to hear what you learn. And if anyone's thinking about starting something on their own, Britney and I will be the first ones to say, do it.
Absolutely.
Do it and learn as you go.
I think that's probably the number one thing. I get asked a lot, like how to start a TikTok, especially for small business, because that's a huge component of what I do. And my answer is you're not going to be very good, but you need to start now. Like there is your first 50 videos are going to be trash. They just are. You're not going to be able to do it well. You're not going to be able to do it fast. You'll have one that pops off and you'll be like, what? That was the one that I put the least possible effort into. What's wild is that that's actually kind of how business goes too. You just have to go. You just have to start. And you're probably going to screw some stuff up. You're totally going to lose some money. And you also are going to learn a lot and make a lot and do really, really cool things. So it's one of those where it's cool to have grown-ups in the room to maybe point out a way that I could have done something differently and ended up with a different result. And I think I'm uniquely at a spot where I get to pivot in very, very cool ways and to be able to have the opportunity to have somebody else help me do that knows maybe some of the more technical sides of things is incredible. So
I can't wait to ask you questions throughout this season because as you will get to know Britney and probably a little bit me too, we are not the best at sitting back and letting other people guide us. We have gotten very far in life off our own grit, off our own gut instincts, off of doing our thing. So it's huge to open yourself up for critique and input.
It is not something I do well. So it is, I've already pep talked myself to keep my damn mouth shut and just like open your listening ears, Britney, and close your mouth for a minute.
Well, everyone cheer on Britney. If you have any Goldman Sachs questions, send them our way. She'll answer anything along the way for you on that. But today, the main focus is where the hell do you buy your products?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know about them? Mm-hmm. There's so much misinformation out there. And I'll be honest with you because why else would I be here? I have spent now 7 months on LinkedIn, my favorite place, trying to learn everything because that is the only platform right now that isn't censoring these founders. Everywhere else, censorship is really all, but this is, with it being a new industry where they're connecting and where they're sharing information and talking about different regulation. And 7 months in, I am just as confused as when I started. So we're going to start breaking it down. And I will let Britney go first because I think she's been consuming cannabis a little bit longer than I have on the regular. And she's in the Midwest. So let's hear how she does it. And then I can tell you a little bit what I do.
Absolutely. So I think that it's important to talk about the different types and then how to get it. So there are, I think, realistically, a couple of main modalities. The one that is probably the most common to most people is flower. That is like the actual weed that looks like a little clump of, dried leaf. That is literally what that is. A lot of times it is smoked in either a pipe, a bong, or like a rolled up paper thing. There's also options for like vapes, which most people know from the sake of like tobacco vapes, but they also make cannabis vapes. That is also smoking, but you don't have to do anything with it. You just suck on it.
Okay, so you brought up flower, and that I find interesting.
It's the reason I'm bringing it up first because you don't do it. That's why I'm bringing it up first. So.
I don't do it. And I don't consider myself like a cannabis enthusiast. I am just realizing what a world it is that we need to get down to more bite-sizable pieces for people like me that are just coming into it. And flower is the number one. So that is what your enthusiast, your legacy, your people that know what the hell they're talking about, they're going to tell you inside and out about flower.
And I don't know very much about that world, honestly. I'm more just giving you guys we'll find someone that knows a lot.
We'll bring
it's not me.
People on for that. But flowers, and I have no problem with anybody that smokes. I like to be very clear about that. I personally don't use flower for 2 reasons. The first reason being how I react to it. So you hear a lot of times like I smoked and I got high, like anxious, I was a mess. That was me. Anytime, and I will try it occasionally to just like see if that's changed. It hasn't, FYI.
I'm not super surprised for the record. Because I really do. I agree. I think there's certain things that work different for better bodies for different, you know what I mean? Like I think there are different types of chemical interactions that happen between your body and the things that are in it. And that just depends.
Yeah. So. And if it's not you picking it out, like usually it's my friends that have it and they're like, oh, you got to try this, or, oh, since you're getting into it. Well, they're seasoned.
Correct.
I am not seasoned.
Correct.
So the fact that smoking hits my body like this is one thing, but then they're probably smoking something stronger than I would normally take on my own. And then also it's smoke. Yes. At the end of the day, like I don't want to put that in my lungs. Okay. That's my choice. Everyone has their own. Fine. But then even within flower, so even before we get to like edibles and we get to drinks and we get to all of that, it's, well, where do you find said flower? Do you have, I mean, let's be honest, anybody right now, even if there weren't smoke shops, dispensaries, are you telling me you couldn't find it within 10 minutes or less? Because
I'm going to be honest with you, even if you don't think you could find it within 10 minutes.
Just go through your phone and send it to some friends. Like, yes. There is they call it the black market. Somebody is selling it without a license. That's what the black market is at the end of the day. Now, there's good actors and there's bad actors in that. So you have to think that through. Like, yes, you are supporting your neighborhood friend. Yes. But how far deep does that go? And what are the bigger processes doing it? Which something I never thought about. But when you do that, usually it's coming from more illegal sources that are often tied to child trafficking and human trafficking.
There's just a lot of unknowns that are coming with unregulated bodies, which is really complicated. So other types. We're going to do our other types. So there is flower. There is vapes, vaporizers. There is edibles, which is also broken into its own thing. So technically, Monica and I use two main edible modalities, mostly. I primarily take gummies. Monica primarily does beverages. There are options for all of these things, but there are also other things. There's chocolate. There is honestly like chips. There's weird stuff, you guys.
Oh, there's chips now. There's cookie dough. There's popcorn. They sprinkle it on the popcorn. I have syrups that I can put in my coffee.
Those are actually really cool. There are some syrups that are really cool. There are some, Monica has these dissolvable, like tablet drops, kind of like, what are those called that you put it when your stomach hurts?
Alka-Seltzers. They're very, yeah, they're called Fizzy.
Yeah.
Founders, amazing, great company. But yeah, you can make anything.
So say you were out, we're out for a birthday event or something, and you are no longer drinking or just know that it's not a fit for you that night. You could totally drop one of those in a soda or a mocktail, and then all of a sudden you have a cannabis-based beverage presently with you.
And it's very low dose.
So there's that. And then there are also topicals, which is another one that I don't know that we've talked about a ton, but I actually have a bit of experience with. The very first time I medicinally used cannabis, I was shooting a wedding in Colorado. I used to be a photographer, fun fact. I don't know if you know this, Monica. And I had shingles. I have chronic shingles, and which is really weird as a young human. My very first time I had them, I was, I think, 19 or 20. I was really young. But I had shingles, and I was trying to shoot a wedding. And if you've never had shingles, it feels like somebody's punching you in a bruise all the time. Feels really good. It's really fun. Love that for us. So being in Denver, it was not super long after they had legalized cannabis. I walked into a shop. It was the very first time I had ever been in a dispensary ever. And I said, I have shingles. I hurt. What do you have? That was pretty much what I said. And the man was so kind.
And this is why bud tenders are the most amazing humans on this earth.
Patient.
Love your bud tender.
Oh my God, he was so patient. He was like, oh, okay. Well, alrighty, let's see what we have. So I actually there's a company called Mary's Medicinals. They primarily do a lot of honestly very medicinal based product. I think they do have other stuff, but anything I've ever used from them was either topical or very much like medicine based. But they were incredible. It was a topical like gel cream or whatever, and it is the only thing since I've ever found that works on shingles ever.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. It was actually the very first thing that made me start to see cannabis as medicine basic, like versus recreational.
Okay. Versus just the high.
Because I think I did maybe get like a little bit high, but that's not even remotely what I was using it for. It was truly to be able to get through the day to shoot a wedding with horrific pain. So
if you've never tried any of this for pain or anything like that, it's becoming more common, especially in the like elder generations too, like the boomer generation. It's actually amazing how much they're starting to show like cannabis can be used to treat certain things, like even some things with diabetes, even it's just, we'll have a whole section on that, but you would be surprised at the amount of boomers that are using it that you would never guess.
Another giant one is nausea, which I struggled. You knew this. I was super sick last week after traveling, and then kiddos with normal stomach bug things coming through. One of the only, because I had to work a couple of days, like it's just me and my sister. So, you have to get the stuff done.
You're a mom, you're a business owner, you're a wife, like things don't just magically get done.
I was actively throwing up at work. My sister's like, bro. And I was like, no, we have to get this done. It is what it is. And the only thing that could keep my nausea at bay was I have a little vape, and I wasn't even hitting it enough to get high. It was enough to curb my nausea at the time. And that was it. Like that was the only, and a little bit of Sprite and some pretzels. And that's all I had on hand to be able to work with. I didn't have any, Zofran on hand. I eventually had to go and get like an IV with Zofran and extra fluids, and it helped a lot. But I also had to just get through the damn day. And that's what I had on hand to do it. So, yeah.
So there's such a variety of different ways you can take it in. So I think that the stigma has always been out there that there's like this stoner preset, and that you're going to smell and you're going to this and you're going to that. And yeah, some people that smoke, there will be a smell with it. Just like people that smoke cigarettes. What's the difference? It's just a smell you're not used to. But there are also different ways. So if it is something that you're thinking about trying, just know that there's a variety of different options. And it's called your endocannabinoid system, which we'll bring someone on for that that's much more versed. We will never pretend to be scientifically or medicinally versed. But that means that something Britney could be taking right now for nausea could have a completely different effect on me. We're all different. So it is going to be a little bit of trial and error. But as I mentioned, this is why if you go into a store, you got to love on your bud tenders. They know more than anything. We're going to help guide you to some different resources online. But then that goes like, okay, so now you know you want to try it, but where the fuck do I go? Do I Google? Because people are going to spend a lot of money to make sure their product's at the top of Google, but you have no idea. But also for me, like I've never loved going into a dispensary. Like that's never been my vibe either. And then every state's different on what you can get.
So I think very first is to figure out what state you're in, figure out what the governing regulatory bodies of your state allow, and then from there making some decisions. So first and foremost, I live in a state. So basically you could Google right now cannabis regulations for Iowa. So if I Googled that right now, what I would see is that we allow medical use. You have to have a prescription from a doctor to be able to purchase within the state for THC and certain levels of CBD.
Yes, I want to preface that with we use doctor in quotation marks because my actual doctor, I'm a medical state as well. My actual doctor, the one that wants to write me Xanax and wants to give me all the things, she is not allowed to write my prescription card, not because she doesn't believe in it, because her organization told her no. However, I go on Groupon, do not pay full price. Groupon, put in medical marijuana card, put your state, and in less than an hour, you will talk to a doctor.
On the phone or a FaceTime.
They may turn on the camera, they may not. And you can have your prescription card. So don't freak out by medical marijuana.
How much do you pay for that, Monica? It's important information.
Oh my gosh. When I didn't know, I just Googled. I bought my first one. I didn't even tell my husband until like 2 or 3 days later. And I paid full price. And I want to say it was like $200 and something.
That's about how much it is in Iowa too, for just like full price.
Then you have to renew it every year. And then someone told me about the Groupon trick. So then when the old one was trying to get me to renew, they started texting me.
Wow, back off.
And finally I texted back and I'm like, I'm having a hard time deciding because I'm seeing your cost, but I'm seeing the cost on Groupon. They started negotiating with me
word.
via text for the best rate for my medical marijuana card. So don't let medical freak you out. But because we want to keep this short and sweet and not bog you down, we may have to deep dive into each one specifically. Yeah. So some states will have medical, which they put restrictions and you have to have the card, but then you can get a huge variety of items. And then there's also states, neither Britney and I live in one of these states.
We don't live in a recreational state, no.
So recreational would be the same products you could get in like medical marijuana plus a few more.
Most states do have a limit on how much you can purchase per day. If you were to go into a dispensary, you walk in, you give them your ID, and they don't really give a shit who you are. They're literally just regulating for government purposes. That's literally all it is. And they'll scan it, they put it in, and then you will walk back either with a bud tender or they'll have like a little door that you go through. And a lot of times they'll have like an iPad or something and you'll pick your items. You can ask any questions. Those people literally would never judge you ever. You could ask the weirdest question and they will know the answer or they'll find the answer for you. It's magic. They're like the best.
And give you breakdowns of what all the
Mhm.
different there's so much you can learn.
I have learned so much walking into a
Yes,
dispensary.
I could spend
They're so
hours
smart.
talking to bud tenders. We're going to bring some on though, which is the fun thing. We really do have some planned that is going to be awesome to talk to. So that's recreational, so you can look up in your state. Now, then we have where it gets controversial in terms of the misinformation that's been put out there. So the other option are hemp-derived products. Hemp and cannabis are essentially the same plant. It's just how they're harvested,
How they're processed,
right?
how all of that happens.
But at the end of the day, it's THC, it's CBD, it's the other cannabinoids. But because of the 2018 Farm Bill, which I gave a more easy breakdown of this in our newsletter that went out about 2 weeks ago. So I will link it in the show notes here rather than dive into that. But with the Farm Bill, it made these hemp-derived products federally legal. So that's when everything started popping off because you could get gummies. That's how they started doing the beverages. So many different things. But because they're not in the medical or because they're not in the recreational, there's a lot of misinformation out there, but a lot of what they call smoke shops or head shops in grocery stores and gas stations, they've been able to sell these products. And now state by state, they're starting to take a federally legal product, just like they do with alcohol, and they make their own rules in the state about what they're going to make legal. So every state is going to have its own nuances.
There'll be different percentages. There'll be different things that are allowed. At the end of the day, all that really matters is making sure you're choosing reputable brands that are components of regulatory bodies. So you know where their hemp or cannabis is coming from. You know that they are paying fair wages to their employees. You know that, et cetera. Basically, just doing the exact same consumer research that you would do for a new product that you're bringing for your kids. Make sure you're doing the same for yourself is all we ever ask regarding those sort of situations. So,
yes, because there will be, of course, bad actors
Always.
in every space.
Always.
So are there some companies that have seen this opportunity and want to make as much money as they can before laws get changed?
Without question.
But there's also companies that see the way to help consumers and way to help patients and way to give them an accessible product to help them until their states maybe get a little less stigmatized and change up their medical and their recreational. But I have to tell you something about medical and recreational. There's bad actors in that space too. So even though they're considered regulated, the amount of pesticides, the amount of byproducts that they're starting to find in those regulated extra taxed products could be just as bad for you as a bad actor in the hemp space.
Mhm.
So it's all going to come down, no matter where you're buying it, to quality. They do require something in the business. They call it a COA. That means certificate of analysis. So any product you get is going to have a QR code on it where it's all been tested through a lab, and it'll list the products that are in it, what's been used, and all that jazz,
Yes.
right? Alcohol doesn't even put what's in their thing. This is something that they have to have. But there is some controversy as well around the certificate of analysis that labs are starting to be paid to give a certain certificate of analysis. So it does get really tricky on what to buy. So a smoke shop in general, I wouldn't say don't buy it from there.
Just know your brands, know what you're getting. Yeah.
Talk to the
Sure.
person. And if it's my favorite, what they would call a smoke shop here, it's called Simply Canna in New Orleans. I love them. However, I went in the other day and there was someone working there that I'd never met before. And it was like talking to a brick wall.
Oh my.
So I went in to get new products, but because I didn't feel comfortable with her knowledge of the products, I wasn't ready to buy something new. So I went to tried and true. So trust your gut. We are women. Most of us, whoever you are, but trust your gut. And then start finding reputable resources to research,
Absolutely.
which is what we're going to help you
Mhm.
find. And that is really the broad overview. We could do deep dives into a lot of that. So let us know what you want to know. We're going to teach you as we learn and as we go and go from there.
Absolutely. I would say that there are, and Monica does bring up a really good point, that locally, sometimes we can be kind of limited by what we have available to us, but there are a lot of options that are online as well. We try to link you guys to those people that we know who are just through Monica's relationship she's built throughout the cannabis industry. And then on top of that, our own research, we've been able to find a lot of brands that are able to work with federal regulations, and you can order it and have it shipped straight to your front door, which is an incredible option.
In a nondescript box.
Correct. In just like a regular, looks like an Amazon box. It's not like they have pot leaves all over it. It doesn't look like that. And ultimately, we always are huge proponents of making sure we keep kiddos safe and stuff, keep it locked, keep it away. But outside of that, it's not going to look any different than anything else that you, honestly, if Monica had a seltzer right next to her, I have some in the fridge, I could go grab it and they look like the Croix. They look like, sparkling beverages. They don't, for the most part, there might be a tiny little THC CBD logo or something on it, but for the most part, it's not going to look or feel any different than most products you're purchasing. And I think that is a stigma that if you've never purchased a cannabis or hemp product before, you have no idea what you're going to get. So you're like, oh my God, I'm going to order this in the mail and I'm going to look like a huge stoner. No, it's going to look like any other product or any other package. So yeah.
You know what this made me think though too, is even if you Google your state and try to figure it out, it's hard to find that information because right now what's there is what people want you to find, what they're paying. There hasn't been enough talking about this. There hasn't been enough focused on the consumer versus who's trying to make a lot of money right now. So I think it might be a good idea if we create a little PDF, since we have access to this knowledge, and people can just go online, get it, and it'll give you the exact breakdown of what's medical in your state, what's recreational, what beverages you can have, if you can buy them at the grocery store, or if you have to go online. We will work on that. We will get it for you. So we're going to keep giving you the information. I mean, there's a huge thing going down in California right now. Like all hands are on deck in the cannabis industry. If you wanted to get to a cannabis executive today, cannabis hemp, good luck. That's how important what's going down in California today. So we're going to keep navigating that chaos for you to get you this information, but let us know what you want to know. Send us a message, send us a DM. We'll figure it out for you.
And if we're able to connect you with the right people, we'll do that.
Thank you for coming to episode 3, everyone. Please wish Britney good luck on the start of her Goldman Sachs journey. We are so excited for her. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye, friends.
Thanks for listening to the Cali Sober Mom Podcast. The best way for us to get the word out is you. So share this episode with someone you know who will enjoy it. And be sure to follow Cali Sober Mom on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're consuming the show right now.